Welcome to Media Writing TVR 017 for winter 2021. I am Angelo Ford. I'll be your professor for the course. You can find more about me as well as contact information in our syllabus. So be sure to check that out. I served in the United States Air Force as a pilot. You might be able to tell by some of the paraphernalia here behind me. After I separated, I came out here to California, went back and got a master's degree in business, and worked in logistics for a good 5, 6 years. And then a friend of mine came into some cash to produce a film. He was a director, and he asked me if I would work on that movie as a production manager, which I did, and I absolutely loved it. So I went back to school and community college, Saddleback, worked on a program for cinema and television, and a couple years of that. Still really enjoyed it. Was working on sets, and went back full time to get my MFA in television producing and film producing at Chapman University. So I've been doing that for a good amount of time, and spent some time over in England. Came back here to the States and got the opportunity to start teaching, and that's what brings me to you here today. The goals of this course are for you to understand the basic elements of what make up a screenplay. As you'll find in the lecture, a screenplay is basically a collection of scene headings or slug lines, an action or descriptions of what's going on in the scene and the setting, a character name, which sometimes is included a parenthetical next to them, like voiceover or off screen, dictating some kind of situation that we don't see as the reader, but we would see on screen. And then, of course, dialogue from the characters, which would change depending on who's talking. And all of this needs to be formatted properly using industry standard formatting techniques, which we will talk about over the course, as well as software that automatically does that for you so that you can focus on just writing the screenplay. And then, of course, the third goal is to understand the basics of structure, story structure, the overall arc of your characters and your story to build the foundation that you can actually complete screenplays on your own and then continue practicing that and honing your craft. As I mentioned, here in week one, we're going to take a look at some of the software programs that are available. I've included some video links that you can explore. Go into YouTube, check them out. Really go onto those company websites and see what programs might work best for you. If you already use one of those programs, I highly encourage you to share that knowledge in our discussion boards and give some of the other students that might not have had the chance to use those some insight and firsthand knowledge of those software programs that you're currently using. So, speaking of discussions, we have two this week. One is a more of an introductory icebreaker where everybody can kind of get to know each other virtually and just a little bit about the other students in the class, as well as me understanding the class as a whole. And then we'll have a discussion on film genre that you'll find. And I want you to do two things in that discussion. I want you to post an original thought on genre and then also comment on another student as well. And that will give you full credit for the week on the points that are available for this week's discussions. Each week, I will give you a recommended video screening for a film for you to watch. They're not mandatory. I would like them to be if we had more access, but I understand that some people might not be able to get them. So I'm just keeping them as highly recommended suggestions at the time. You can find most of them, some of them on Netflix, most of them on Amazon or YouTube for $2.99, $3.99, depending on the quality you want to watch. They're all movies that you can watch in SD and still enjoy and really understand what's going on and get the point of why I'm recommending them. This week's is Chinatown, and it is considered one of the best, if not the best, screenplay ever written. The story in it is just superb. So I recommend that you guys watch that. Really pay attention to the characters, the settings, how the story flows, and the arc of each character. The things that we're talking about in the lecture. I think just watching it will really highly reinforce that for you and help develop your own writing techniques. Finally, there are two books that I highly recommend for this course. One is Save the Cat. It really does a great job to me of building structure, identifying beats, and really setting an outline of what a modern audience wants to see in a movie. I know there's a lot of professors and people that don't agree with, structural writing and the whole idea of having, specific beats that you're writing to. But me as a producer and as a viewer of films, I am a big fan of films that follow a structure, even ones that look like they don't. Something like Pulp Fiction, where it looks like it's all over the place, but when you break it down, and if you were to analyze it using a book like Save the Cat, you'll clearly see that it has a very well defined structure, and the filmmakers know exactly what they're doing. So that's kind of the whole idea. Follow a structure, build a story, and then when you get comfortable and really understand the techniques that are being used in a screenplay, that's then the time to, start messing around with doing things more artistically and out of the box thinking and just really your own fingerprint on something. Um, but until you get to that point, I highly recommend, following something like Save the Cat to write screenplays that will really get out there into the world and that people like me will want to produce because they do have commercial viability or can play well to an audience. The second book is The Writer's Journey by, I think his name is Christopher Vogler. And it is a fabulous book. It's based on the work of Joseph Campbell, who was one of my all time favorite writers. He was a comparative philosophy religion scholar, traveled all around the world studying the stories of the world. And most of the great movies that we have today, a lot of them are credited with his structure. Everything from Star Wars to Lion King, and you'll find that in the writer's journey as well, because the writer really takes that book, takes Joseph Campbell's thoughts and work, and then applies them into modern movies and writing in the stories that we have today. Really fabulous book, and I think you'll find that both of them are more than just good reads. They're really great reference material when you're writing screenplays and you're going back and looking for something that will help you along and keep that structure in there. So they're not mandatory, but I highly recommend that you buy both. You can find, I think, maybe available in the bookstore. Definitely available on Amazon. You can find them used on eBay, that type of stuff. Whatever you can do to pick them up, they are great books, and I do highly recommend them. So, to conclude, I hope you took this class because you're passionate about movies, you're passionate about film, because we're going to take that passion and really hone it and apply it into writing screenplays to get those ideas that you might have in your head onto paper so that you can develop your own screenplays in the future.